Hello and welcome to Selflane Restaurant Technology Podcast, episode number 2. Today we have a very special guest. I have my co-founder Charlie Liu joining us from his home in Bolingbrook, Illinois. Yeah, so tell us, Charlie, what was it like growing up in China? And I know for me, when I came to the US, it's because my parents, right? So it was pretty straightforward. My mom got remarried to my stepfather. Therefore, he was able to get a visa for me to come to the US. What was that journey like for you?
Yes, so I came to the States in 2008 for my graduate student study at Purdue University in Indiana. So my journey, it's more like a typical Chinese student who goes to the college in China, but then apply for the graduate school in America, searching for better advanced educations and also focus on the research. So for me, when I was in college in China, I was already involved in researches in particle physics. So actually, before I step in this startup journey, all of from my kind of like 20s and early 30s are all in the research areas and specifically for the particle physics, which if you don't know exactly what is particle physics, is more like a collider stuff that you probably heard
Large
in
Hadron
movies.
Collider.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that was my kind of like a thing. In China, we had a collider in Beijing. I researched over there. And then when I come to Purdue, my professor, she was quite a leading professor in this area. And she was working both on the Large Hadron Collider in CERN in Europe. And also she was also a leading figure in this US project, which is a Tevatron Collider at Fermilab in Chicago. So I got the opportunity to either work on a Fermilab project or European project. And I chose to stay at Chicago to work on the Fermilab project. So in 2008, I come to Purdue, spent 1 year in Indiana for the class studies, and then I just stayed almost all my PhD life at Fermilab in Chicago, living in the lab and also working in the lab. So my life was almost like a purely academia, just focusing on the research. After that, I got the job from Los Alamos National Lab in New Mexico and still working on the particle physics. Switched slightly from collider physics to neutrino physics, but that's also because the world is also changing in that direction for our research area. Just because the colliders are getting old and too expensive, and the US is deciding to focus on the neutrino studies. So I followed that direction and went to Los Alamos. Moving from Chicago to Los Alamos was a very big change for me. I remembered the first day when I was meeting my mentor in Los Alamos. He was telling me that people come to Los Alamos, you will end up with either loving it or hating it. The reason you're going to love it is because the outdoor life in New Mexico, in Los Alamos areas, is fabulous. Because if you love outdoor life, actually, New Mexico is a place. I was telling friends that they are not a Grand Canyon, but they are, the median canyon.
Good canyon.
They're not, they're not a Yellowstone, but they are, somewhere Whitestone.
Yeah.
So they are like this secondary level, all these national parks collected in one state, right?
Yeah.
So that's the part that you're gonna love New Mexico. But then you're gonna hate it is because I was living in Chicago and everything was convenient. Shopping is convenient, dining out is convenient. You got so much different options in front of you to do things, and so your life is super convenient. But then when you move to Los Alamos, the entire Los Alamos only have like 30 restaurants for you to choose from.
What's the population of Los Alamos? I'm just curious.
So Los Alamos is a very special town. It has about 10,000 people living there. And if you look for Wikipedia, I think the number is somewhere around 75% of those 10,000 people are PhD
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the
holders.
highest concentration of PhDs in the world, right? Everybody
Yes.
at Los Alamos. That's New Mexico claim to fame is highest concentration of PhDs in any place is in Los Alamos.
Yeah, it's like because when we moved to Los Alamos, we are at the age of close to 30, late 20. So most of the people who move at that age are married. But for example, like our friends, the males are working the lab, the females are taking care of kids at home. But those housewives also have more than half of them holding a PhD, but then staying at home taking
Wow.
care of the kids.
Wow.
So that's why this town is really like even the people who are not working, they're PhD diploma holders. So that's the special part of it. But the life there is really weekends we just go outdoors. But other than that, when you wanted to just do some small shopping, it's not convenient. When you are trying to dine out, it's not convenient. The options are very limited. So that actually got us into the lifestyle of always having a bunch of friends hanging out together. Either is because of the kids or because of you just wanted to go outdoor hiking with some other people together. And by doing that, we always do this potluck. So every family, we get together, maybe we go to the mountains, but then everybody just brings something, right?
Yeah.
You bring a couple of dishes with you, and then we do picnic in the Hemis mountain. And that is a point. I see so many housewives, they're just staying at home and their cooking is way better than the restaurant offering that we have in town. And so I was just chatting with my wife and saying, hey, like maybe you guys should get together and open a restaurant. But at that point, I have to tell you more like a personal side of me is I never worked in a restaurant. I never grew up like working in restaurants. So I don't know how restaurants work at all, like a zero understanding of how restaurants work. The second thing is we haven't really like it's my experience is all from academia. So I don't know that much of how industry work. I have a keen interest in learning all those financial stuff, like reading the financial news and also play with stock investment, those kind of things. But in terms of operating business, zero knowledge on that, and never really thought too much of that as well. However, it's because of the conversation with my wife of operating a restaurant got me to look into the restaurant operation, got me to feel, I think I was in a very similar shoe as many young Americans when they are thinking about opening a restaurant. That is a very big life change if you really step into that. The reason is opening a restaurant means you are attaching your life to that business physically, not just you have to be there from the morning to the late night, depends on what kind of restaurant you are opening.
Yeah.
And your family will be attached to that business as well. Maybe your kids, when they get out of school, they have nowhere to go. They have to come to your restaurant and sit in your kitchen, do their homework or help you out, just bussing those tables and so on. So that made me feel like, how come it is so hard for people to open this, to operate this type of business? What can we do to make it easier for their life? What we can do to make another person who was in the same thinking as me to really make it work for them? So I was basically couldn't sleep for that entire night and thinking through like, can we do something about this to make it work better for those people who are thinking that way? That is how the idea of this software company came together.
Okay. Now, did any of your friends or family members, including your wife, have any restaurant operation experience or know anybody?
No.
No? Okay.
No,
They all had PhDs.
they all had PhDs and they all had zero of this. So I actually started to talk about this ideas with them. But the problems of talking with my friends of these ideas come with the, Isaiah, you were asking me, like how this coding all started and so on. So even though they all have PhDs, but they're either material scientists, particle scientists, or they are in chemistry research areas. So none of them really able to like just hop into this software development stuff.
Mhm.
So I was pretty lonely at that end. But I myself actually can code a lot. The reason I can code a lot is there's some details you wanted to know more about particle physics. This is a very interesting research area. I'm still very proud that I was in that area, and I'm still super interested in what's going on in that area. So I took Kevin for a tour to Fermilab once. So if you go there, you will find actually this type of experiment is huge. Usually a project would cost billions of dollars. And it involves in a lot of different things. You need to build giant colliders, you need to build giant detectors, you need to duck giant tunnels. So you'll end up, so all of the scientists work in this area, even though you are just like you're at school, you're more like just studying what Einstein or Oppenheimer would study, the books, right? But then in real research area, you end up doing civil engineering, thinking about how to build a tunnel, what is the size of the tunnel you're building, and you are thinking about how to build all those engineering work behind the colliders and the detectors, and the electric engineering work behind all how to run those cables. And you end up designing a lot of things that industry, the commercial world, doesn't offer yet. Like when you're taking the data, what kind of bus you are creating to collect those amount of data. It's not like our regular just broadcast data amount we're talking about. That's way bigger data amount that we're talking about. And that is also when we think about cloud computing, before we have AWS cloud computing, Fermilab is the place that is already running, we call computer farm. So when I was doing research at Fermilab, we always use 3,000, 4,000 computers at the same time, because my job requires, the first skin of data would be looking at, huge amount of data to start with. And then when I was just kind of like filtering those data through, I need maybe overnight 2,000 computers to work with me to just work out with those data. So we've been using those data forms, computer forms, before there was a terminology of cloud computing. And so I also acquired, so I'm super interested in Linux, and that is the first day when I stepped into particle physics. We already started to use Linux, and actually Linux that we are using is called Fermilab Linux, which is invented basically Fermilab has people to write a Fermilab version of Linux.
Right.
CERN has people to write a CERN version of the graphic and analysis tool, data analysis tool. So we all use C++ to write all of those kind of things. How do we learn about those? So that's the interesting part of, that's why I appreciate the training I had in particle physics is you don't really say that if you're a computer science student or if you're an electrical engineering student, or, you just think what you need to do. And then you just go and grab those things that it should be required to do your things and learn that and make it happen. That's just how the particle scientists work. Their mindset is just like that. So when I started to hop into this idea of writing a software for restaurants, if you ask me, do I know how to write a website? Do I know how to develop a iOS app? Do I know how to write a backend server? I didn't know anything about any of them. But then it's just this, training I had in particle physics. When you think about particle physics, the physicist always just think, okay, I need to discover the Higgs boson, the God particle.
Mm-hmm.
And then you move backwards. Like, how do I generate this God particle? And then how do I detect this God particle? And then how do I analyze the data and then show it to the world that I discovered it? So
Right.
the same thing worked for me is I just say, okay, I need to build this software. Then I move backwards and say what's needed to build the software. What kind of backend we need to write up, what kind of front end we need to write up, and then just go there to grab all those tools and then start to just put things together. So that's how it started. That's I was still at Los Alamos when I started that, and that was 2015. Got this idea, starting to learn about all those tools myself in the evening or late night. And I had to also just tell the lab that I am working on these ideas on my own time. Because that's my third year at the lab. I was just about to make a decision to see if I wanted to stay with the lab and pursue a scientist career over there, or just to do something else, leave the lab. And then that was I think it's the beginning of 2016. As I was saying that I don't know how to operate a business, a restaurant business. So the good thing about it is I was able to, because we have about 30 restaurants in the town. So I was able to just go into those restaurants and ask them to talk to me. The first restaurant talked to me, actually gave me a green light right away. I mean, I don't have any salesman's skill like Kevin has been talking about. So I went into this restaurant. I think if I went to any other place's restaurant, I would be kicked out right away.
Yeah.
So we have this town in Los Alamos called White Rock. So I went to this New Mexican cuisine restaurant called Don Villa in White Rock. They have a new owner, just started operating this business maybe like a few months. And it's one of the biggest casual dining restaurant over there. I went in there, I just say, I got this idea. I wanted to build a system, run your business that allows online ordering, allows everything. And I wanted to provide all this service for free, especially the online ordering for you. And he says, okay. And he just let me to sit there and think around. And that was if I think about it now, if I have this idea and if I'm in Chicago, and I don't think even Chicago has maybe 1,000 times more restaurants compared to the town I was living in, but I don't think I could get any restaurants to allow me to do what I was doing in this first restaurant I went to.
Yeah, they don't have time for that in Chicago.
Yes.
Busy.
Yeah. And then
Yes.
also at the time, you said 2016, obviously online ordering is already a thing, right? In Chicago and some of the bigger cities,
Yes.
but may not be available in Los Alamos, right? Or White
That's
Rock.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was able to sit there. They have a general manager in the restaurant, and she was very kind to me, and she basically told me about how she does her book, how she kind of like every day, what are numbers she need to put together and do the calculations. And so I was just sitting there and observing. I never been a waiter waitress myself, so I was just also sitting there and see how this waiter and waitress, they put in order. They were using a cake system from Cisco at the time, and everybody was complaining about it.
Yeah.
So I was like, so because I can just quickly Google what is Cisco, right? I didn't know what is Cisco. And clearly Cisco is one of the largest food supplier in the restaurant industry. And I was really surprised to see, okay, such a big company with such a nice, because it's a beautiful POS system.
Yeah.
And how come people don't like it? So I took a look and I just see everything was super slow. And they just make me like, huh. I feel sad somehow. I feel like, how come nobody come to this industry and provide a better tool for the restaurant owners to operate the business? That really got me to the point like, okay, maybe I can do a better job rather than a Cisco company like Cisco. So that just got me into it. And when we start to look into this, I think most of the people when they start a company, they will do a lot of marketing analysis, business analysis to see how feasible, how viable your idea is.
Right.
And I think I started in a super naive way. Is I just see that the market needs a better tool, and I have no knowledge of how the point of sale system work at the time. But I got the opportunity to talk with all those waiters, waitress, from their point of view, what kind of thing they are looking at. They are look. So when nowadays when you think about how Selflane doing our project is, a lot of times we are just hearing directly from our clients instead of seeing what the competitions is doing. Because it's from the day one, I didn't even know who are the competitions for this point of sale things.
In our own little world.
Yes. And of course, that naiveness also helped us because if I didn't know what's the competition out there, probably I would have too much fear to move at all, because it's an industry that is already filled up with all kinds of product. The only problem is those products in general are low quantity product, but there are just too many already there. It's like if you ask what hasn't been done for the restaurants, probably you cannot really name many. The only problem is they are all just not very nicely done for the restaurants. So for the restaurant owners, yes, it's harder for them to still operate the business. And that is also the reason, I think in the day one, we already call ourselves trying to bring up an all-in-one system for the restaurants, because we don't want the owners to just jump around different things to do their daily job.
Right.
One tool should allow them to do everything instead of they have to just buy so many different services and software tools to run their business.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking back, we've created online ordering, a point of sale system, employment management. So yeah, truly we can call ourselves all in one. And that's what really restaurants are looking for, is to deal with one company rather than 5 companies, because they're busy enough just to try to run their day-to-day operations. It's very demanding to have a restaurant. Yeah.
Yes.
And when you were developing Selflane, so you're in this restaurant, you're seeing all of the shortcomings of the current POS system. How do you then take that and start thinking about how you're going to make something that can do all of those things? They can give the right tool.
So we started to so the beginning was very simple. It's just a website. So we have websites for both the online ordering and also for their in-house ordering system. It's a website-based like a point of sale system.
And is this Selflane 1.0 or is this Selflane 1.0?
Yes. Or maybe 0.0.
Yeah.
It's still, we never had anything that was in beta version. Everything was just right on directly to the market.
Okay.
And we put it on this website, And this website, actually, immediately the second day, we got on our orders for this restaurant.
Wow.
And it's a 70-year-old lady. She placed the first order.
Did she have a PhD? I was gonna say.
I was working at the lab
Yeah.
at the time. I got this notification, and actually, I just left the job and drive all the way to the restaurant myself to meet this first customer.
You did the first delivery.
Yeah, because I was asking, how did you find out how was your experience? And she was saying, wow, it's just very simple. I just click it, and then a few buttons, I'm done, and I come here and pick up the food.
I wish
And-
all our,
order.
I wish all
Yes.
our customers.
Yeah,
Right.
and Los Alamos was such a small town, and when I was in the evening, we always go to this pond in Los Alamos to just hang out over there. And I met the lady again, and I went to even talk to her again about, she has been, ordering several times already with it. So that was the first version of our online ordering system. And also, the first version of the point of sale was pretty basic. It's just like you can put in orders, but we haven't really touched the credit card processing at the time. And that's the place that, Crush will step in later on. But the first year when I was doing this myself, there was a lot of up and downs. Because first, I don't know how to sell, so I don't really know how to get clients. I was very lucky to have the first restaurant to work with me, but I'm not able to get the second restaurant to work with me at all. So I went to the home run pizza restaurant in Los Alamos. And actually, we had 2 pizza restaurants at the time in Los Alamos. I went to the first one and talked to them about it. And the owner liked my idea so much because pizza restaurant is definitely they want this online ordering. And they don't want to pay, 15% to 20% of the revenue. Think about a small operator in a small town. All of their mindset is, 10% is my margin. How can I give you 15%? It's not like this is not a New York restaurant, right? So, but then if we think out a broad landscape in restaurant industry, it's just like that. Most operators, mom and pop shops, their margin is 10-15%, and they don't want to raise their price to cover that extra 15% of all these different third-party players are offering, because the reason they are able to operate that business in their town is because they just provide a good service at the right price. If you raise this price to another 30 or 20%, then for the people who live in that town, they don't like your business anymore.
Yeah.
So I was talking about this with the first pizza restaurant, but then he was like, I love you do all this for me, but the problem is I don't want to be your guinea pig, and especially I don't want to be the restaurant who helped you to build this product, and then you will step into the other pizza restaurant and help them to win my business.
Right.
Well, that's a place I hit my first roadblock is I don't know how to convince them to adopt my product. So I went to this other restaurant that he was talking about. It's called Home Run Pizza. And I was talking with this owner. I say, okay, the other one doesn't want to work with me, but can I work with you to help you to win their business? And he said yes. He said it's kind of like a no-brainer because it's a commission-free, so he doesn't need to pay anything to use this service.
Right.
But that's also the second thing I learned from sales is a promise is not a deal. I got this promise, and when I take a computer to this restaurant, he started rejecting me. Just say next time. next time. And this kind of got me just hand over there for 2-3 months, no progress. And then he started avoiding me until there was one a day. I just bought a new computer, everything set it up, computer, printer. I say, okay, look, this is my offering. I put this computer in your restaurant. I set everything up for you. And, you just, if it works for you, you keep it. If it doesn't work for you, I'll take everything and leave, right?
Yeah.
So it's only at that point that he said, okay,
Right.
it's harder for people probably to reject something like that.
Yeah.
So accept it, and then we just put it there. And it's a pizza restaurant, so they actually get a lot of orders because they don't have anything to write down things. It's all just a pencil and a paper. Imagine just a small town home run pizza. It's always running like this way, right? You walk into so many small town mom and pop shop, pencil and paper and a pencil.
Yeah.
But then it's also because the second client is a pizza restaurant. I learned a lot of new things, and I find actually pizza restaurant is one of the hardest one to work with.
By far.
It's because the modifiers for pizza is very complicated. And the owner was telling me, like when I make the dough and then the customer chooses topping, they can basically ask for whatever they want. They can be very creative. They can have a family who wants one side with mushroom, the other side with no mushroom, just because, one is okay with it, one is not okay with it. And when you do all of that, your price needs to be adjusted based on that. It's like if I buy a certain cuisine pizza, and my topping is maybe this and that, but then you can say, can I replace only half of your topping to another half of something that you didn't write down but you have in your offering? And they will do that for free because it's just swapping half of the topping. And so our system in the first day of offering this pizza restaurant needs to be able to handle those kind of like a pricings. It's like when you have those half price of this, half price of that, your price need to be reflected properly. For those, if it's just a substitute, or if it's a additional toppings that you are purchasing. So, that is, I think that if I look back, I really appreciate it that we got the pizzas menu set up kind of like correct in very early days of this system, because that it really allowed us to. That is also why when people are asking, what kind of restaurants Selflane can serve, actually Selflane, because in the day one can serve a pizza restaurant, Selflane can just serve any restaurants, because pizza is already the most complicated menu in the market.
Yeah, there's definitely, I've been in other POS meetings where they just flat out say we can't do pizza yet because it's the particle physics of menu design, because everything is purely variable. There's infinite options and customization, and you can't program all of that into the system. But
Correct.
That is good that was one of the first steps that you had. If you had the hardest part of it right up front, then everything from there had to be easy for you, right? It was just smooth sailings from there. So then after you got Home Run Pizza, so right now Selflane is just a website, and it's just menus and online ordering. And the very first POS that you set up is just a computer in Home Run Pizza. And there's no credit card integration. It's just a way for them to record pizzas and print out their orders, right?
Yes. So at the time, I was still doing my full-time job in Los Alamos National Lab. But that's kind of like close to the end of my 3-year career over there. But I got 3 restaurants in Los Alamos as well, and they're all doing okay in terms of with this online ordering. I don't have income from that operation yet because we provided this commission-free online ordering for the restaurants, right? So we haven't really charged any fees to the restaurant yet. But I was at this point, should I, take Selflane as a full-time job, or should I just still kind of like doing it as a sidekick? But because at that time I already see a fairly good promise in progress, I got 3 restaurants and everyone is very happy with the product.
Right.
So I decided to just leave the science world and focus on just full-time doing this Selflane. But actually, that's the point that I start to hit a lot of downside of the startup. It's okay. So now it's summer 2016. I started to just a full-time to do the Selflane. So I got this working product. 3 restaurants are using it. Then I need to sell more to different restaurants. So I went down to Santa Fe. That's a 45-minute drive from Los Alamos. And walked into the first pizza restaurant. And again, I got this very nice lady and telling me, wow, this is a great product that will be definitely a great help to her business. And she was also telling me that how supportive she is to the local people who are having this more like a startup innovative ideas, because she has been a supporter of all this kind of like things in Santa Fe. So my hope was up again, right? I was super excited to see now I left my job and my new startup is going in a great trajectory.
Can we talk about that? Because I feel like at this point you're married and you have a family, right?
Yes.
And you have a successful career in science. You're working at the Fermi Lab in Los Alamos, and you're like, okay, honey, I'm gonna go try to sell this pizza like company a computer for free. And she's like, I don't see, what was the calculation that you made that made you think, this, because obviously you'd been going on one path for a really long time, and this is a big left turn for you.
That's right. So this, it's kind of like a step aside from the things that we talk about at the pizza restaurant in Santa Fe, but it's from my family's point of view, how they would be supporting me to make such a big switch. So I think first is, so I was a student, and then I went to Los Alamos. I got the green card very fast because of the scientific achievement I had.
So did you?
So that allowed me to do
genius visa.
Genius visa.
Is that what it's called? Because I looked this up before because they give special visas to people of extraordinary ability, right? It's alien of extraordinary ability. If you make a certain level of achievement in science or art, you get a visa. So and they are called genius visas or art visas. So you got a genius visa.
That's the extraordinary visa. That's what I had.
Yes.
So that allowed me to think more about what do I really wanted to do. At least I had the freedom, right? So because if you think about a lot of immigrant workers, a lot of restrictions is coming from the visa and their status. If they don't have a green card, they are probably just have to work with that particular company who is sponsoring their visa until they get the green card. So fortunately, I didn't have that worry when I was making my decisions. The second thing is actually at the time, I have 2 boys. The older one was only 4-year-old, and the younger one was only 2-year-old. So definitely that was a very stupid idea to. And Los Alamos, it's one of the best paid national lab in the country. And giving up a full-time, well-salaried job and just doing something with no salary. I have to say, I don't know how my wife really supported me, but she was actually giving me the most support. That's the other thing is, I think me and my wife, we support each other just like all kind of things. She got a lot of her ideas of things, and I have been also very supportive to her to pursue her dreams from day one. Look at the pin behind me. That's her pin.
Nice.
So she can do all kinds of things.
Wow.
And I'm also fortunate, like she was just okay with me, because even though the salary in Los Alamos was very good, but we also lived the life of a graduate student that we only live with a couple of $1,000s a month. And we felt just very happy. We never felt like we were, financially stressed. So when I was living in Los Alamos, she had her small business that was having a small income, but we find it's just fine. We just live a more constrained life instead of, spend whatever you can, right?
Right.
So, and I thought that we can actually make a good business out of that quickly. So, which didn't happen actually. But still, so it's I think the other thing is, when we think about the people who come to America, at least both me and my wife, we came here with American dreams, very typical American dreams. It's we are looking for a place to fulfill our skills, fulfill our ambitions. So, when we come to America, we are really kind of like always looking for things that we can endeavor on that is different from what we can get back home. And we always had that mindset, where this end. And so that mindset also kind of like helped us to make those decisions, to see, okay, what could it be worse, right? We came from China, we never had a lot before. What could it be worse? It's not like we don't have skills to make money, but to sustain ourselves. So that kind of like allowed us. But on the other hand, if I step in this same shoe as another person, if you already worked in, say, if you work at Google, you're making very good salary at Google, and now you wanted to just leave that job, and stay, work on an idea with no income for 3-4 years. I don't know many people can make that kind of like a decision, or if they do, their family wouldn't support them at all. Right.
Yeah, it's just a big risk. You're going from, like you said, one of the best paying labs in the country to giving pizza restaurants free computers. And it's like, okay, so is there a business plan? It's like, I think it'll be cool. Like, do how restaurants work? I'm learning what restaurants do. So
that's right.
But that's great that you guys were you supported each other, and you're trying to live the American dream. You're taking the big risks, and you're not afraid to live a humble life to get there. You're sacrificing your own comfort for a dream, for something that you're more interested in.
Yeah, one thing I think really like resonated with me is, you have the talent to do something, and if you just work hard and putting the work, that eventually, it's going to become something great. And there's no better place to do it than in, America, right? Like he said, you come here for the American dream. And if you look back, or if you look around in today's America environment, so many entrepreneurs and business owners, they're not first generation Americans. They're typically like an immigrant from another country, so yeah.
There's definitely a value to that perspective, where you're not taking any of it for granted, right? It's something that's you see the opportunities that are provided here, and you're taking full advantage of them, instead of just thinking, because I'm Native American, or I'm born in America. I'm a naturalized citizen, no, but I'm from America, And I never think about what it would be like to come from another country where you don't have that option, and it isn't as much of a part of the culture where it's like everybody does their own thing and you win or lose based on your own merits, right? So I think that that's a big shift in the way that people look at this country and how and what career path you choose, because I think you guys both are examples of taking full advantage of the freedom of choice to choose whatever you want to do and pursue whatever you want here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So tell us, I mean, at this point, there is still no POS yet, right? It's just a web-based online ordering platform. How did the POS come into play? At what point?
So let's just go back to this Santa Fe story, because I think many people who are stepping into the startups industry, they're gonna have very similar kind of like a roadblock that I had met at that time. So that was the second half of 2016, and I started to talk with the Santa Fe lady, and she gave me such a great promise. But then the second time when I stepped there again, I set up everything already and just ready to go. She started to avoid me. She doesn't even come out to talk to me at all. That just tells me exactly, what I should expect. Actually, nowadays we know this is a real world. But at that time, I was from, kind of like a school, academia, and I always thought a promise is a promise. But, a promise is never a promise until, it's never a deal until you really shake the hands and had everything on it.
Yeah.
So things will start to look a little bit bad for me at the time. But sometimes it's just one small hope will keep you up. So early 2017, I got another restaurant in Santa Fe start to use the online ordering for me. And actually, it immediately brought them a lot of online sales. So that was the Double Dragon Chinese restaurant over there. That is because I got rejected and I was already in Santa Fe. So I was sitting in Santa Fe. If I just drive back to Los Alamos, that's another 45, 50 minutes drive, and I got nothing out of there. And I was just telling myself, okay, I'm here. What I need to do, I just knock doors, just like I was the Kevin at the time, right? I just knock doors and see what's gonna happen. So it's always this small hope that it always keep you up. Again, and
you didn't accept the defeat from the pizza lady, and instead of saying I'm just gonna go home, call it a day, you stopped in at one more restaurant. Is that what happened?
Yes, that's right, and it worked, right? So so he gave this opportunity to me, and we had this first Santa Fe restaurant using it, but I still couldn't really get anywhere. I started cold calling, and people would yell at me, swear at me, and what? How did you get my numbers? Things like that. And I get hurt because I don't have any, if you're really like a very good salesman, you don't feel much about those things because that's just a part of it, right? But I couldn't take it. I couldn't take those things very much. So that's another setback. I only had a 4 restaurants using the system, and that was already early 2017. And at that point, New Mexico University had a program. So basically, they allow you to work with the students in the summer program, and they will pay half of the salary. I pay half of the salary. So I ended up with working with 2 students from the chemistry engineering program over there. And one girl, she turned out very active, helping me to just, first is I teach them about how to build a website, how to, do the technology stuff. But I also asked them to approach the restaurants to sell this product to the restaurants. The first restaurant actually we went to is the shop,
which is a customer now.
Yes, but at the time,
one of the most busy ones too for
they laughed at us. Yeah. So nothing happened actually in 2017. I mean, first is that the students, they were not experienced salesperson as well, right? So three of us, we are not experiencing any of those, but we're just trying. And so it's a short program. I think it's just 1 month. And so it's at the end of the month, nothing really happened. Several promising conversations, but just nothing really kicks in. And almost like the last day, Ava, she was a student working with me. She called me. She said that I don't know how I do it, but there was just one restaurant owner says that he wants to sit down and talk to you. That was a B2B. So I went to B2B and sit down with Sean at B2B. So he was telling me, so B2B was a brewery close to New Mexico University, very busy restaurant at the time. And Sean owns 2 locations at the time. He was using the system that Kevin's previous partner, Croce, was developing. So it's a Windows-based system, but the problem that he was having with the system is because Croce is leaving to Seattle, and that system won't have any maintenance anymore. And he's having a lot of issues with the system because software updates, system updates, computer is getting very lagged because it's a very old Windows computer. So he's looking for a new system, and he doesn't want to pay a lot of money for those Aloha or those kind of like systems at the time. And because he worked with Croce, so he knows that as long as you are working with a very good engineer, there's a very good possibility they can bring up a system for you at a price that you wanted to pay. So he was just asking me, what can I do if he wants to use a point of sale system that is with a more reasonable price. And I was just telling him, give me 1 month, I'll do it for you. So that is the first version of our iOS POS. So I didn't know how to program a iOS app. I just learned it right away and write up the first version of the POS on the iPad. 1 month, less than 1 month, I delivered this to this restaurant. But then there's a problem when I was doing it. It's for a real restaurant, especially for a busy restaurant, the credit card processing is the key. If you're not able to talk with a credit card machine, you're not really a point of sale system.
Right.
So that's the place Sean says that talk with Croce, he will help you.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to Croce, and Croce was very nice to me. I think several reasons. Number one is he was so surprised to see there is a guy who is able to deliver such a point of sale system in such a just weeks.
Yeah.
And so that's probably a surprise to him. Second is he's still, I think he's a very good engineer in terms of he wants to have a good reputation. Even though that he's leaving Albuquerque, he doesn't want to leave his clients behind.
Yeah.
So he wants to transit his clients to good hands.
Right.
That is, with those reasons, he helped me say that, okay, there's a PAX credit card machine that you can do a semi-integration that would allow you to be PCI compliance, those kind of things. So we just, I got the first PAX machine from PAX. I don't know. I think he helped me to get my first PAX machine. And, 1 week, we're ready to go.
Wow.
So, so we had this first POS clients. So that is it's not a B2B at the New Mexico University, but the B2B at the uptown
Right.
location. So they are closed now, but that was the first location we installed it. So I was sitting there almost like for the first week, because it's a brewery. The the worst thing for you to develop your product is your first clients is actually a brewery who operates till like 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock
Oh no, yeah.
in the midnight.
So did you drive back to Los Alamos, or you were staying here
Every
in Albuquerque?
night, I go back to Los Alamos at 2 o'clock.
Wow.
That's a 1.5 hours drive. So I got back home at 3, 4 o'clock and come back to Albuquerque again, just to make sure the system is working fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a huge amount of learning experience for me as well, because if you ask how did the Selflane POS was developed, we didn't know how any other point of sale system work. So it's completely developed based on the conversation with the bartender, with the server. It's like how do you want the system to be?
Yeah.
How do you want it to click on those items? The layout is completely based on their feedback at the time. And it's also just trying to build something that is simple enough for them to use for their purpose, right?
Yeah.
They are not looking at the complicated numbers. Because my first impression when I was looking at the cake system is the owner always need to go to the cake and click a lot of buttons for the reporting, and then send that report to his email address. And then he go back to his office and bring up that email and download that report, print it out. I was like, why do you want so many things on that computer that is only supposed to be used by the server? Right?
Yeah.
So that is Selflane's really like a convenient part is our point of sale is focusing on the operations of the server's point of view. Our back office to focus on the manager and the owner's point of view.
Yeah, that's great. So what was the process like from you talking to servers, bartenders to create the first version? Like were you just have sessions of 30 minutes to an hour on a daily basis as you are building out the POS, or what was that look like?
I was basically just sitting at the bar,
Okay.
and
And coding
seeing how
at
they
the same time?
almost like a coding at the same time.
Wow.
Because the iPad we were using is just if we see something is not working right, we update the app right away from my computer to the iPads, and to fix those problems, to reduce those steps, and that is the point that I got on my other hope coming up. That was September 2017. And then Crush called me again and says, I heard that Sean was really liking your system and he's thinking to, adopt your system to his second location. And that was also because, for the servers working in between these two locations, they can clearly see that the system, because Sean actually was putting, not the eggs in all my basket. He actually bought another system for his other location at the time. But everybody was complaining about the other system. That system is not super famous, but it still have like thousands of clients nationwide at the time. So it's a fairly large company, right? And everybody was complaining that how bad is that one, and how good is this one that this guy just write up in 1 month, and asking Sean to switch both locations to one system, so they don't have to, when they are moving back and forth between two locations, they don't have to really like painfully deal with the other systems that they're using.
Yeah. Strong endorsement.
Yeah. And Krosh from Seattle, so he called me. He said that I'm surprised that you're able to bring this up, and also kind of like Sean really liked your product, and I think it's time for you to think about sell this product. And I think I have a person that I know that can help you to sell it. And both of you are Chinese, probably you can even click with him even better with that. So that's the point. I called Kevin, and we set up a meeting. But at the same time, Sean was asking me to install the second location. So I went to Albuquerque to install the New Mexico University location for B2B. And Kevin was coming in at the same time. So I just hooked up everything. I was barely finishing it up. And that was early because it's bars, so they only open at 12 o'clock. So when I was hooking everything up, the server was not there yet. So I didn't train anybody yet to use the system. Kevin was there already, so I started to sit down with Kevin to talk about what I'm doing, what's the vision behind this product and the company. And the server walked in, she started to use the system right away without any training. No training. And I think that's also the selling point I had with Kevin is like Kevin never seen a system that is just like this new restaurant set up and the server just came in and used it right away. Yeah. So I think with that, we just decided to work together. Kevin started to call different restaurants and to see if they wanted to use this new system. And I think, there's probably tons of roadblocks from Kevin's side because, bring a new product to new clients, it's just very hard. But I think the first client, Kevin, really made it happen. It's the restaurant in Chalma, in the very north side of New Mexico. That's almost, I think, a 2-hour drive from Los Alamos, but 3 and 4 hours from Albuquerque.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. At the time, I was still a reseller for another point of sale system because I had started my own business after leaving Heartland Payment Systems because of the buyout from another huge company. And so I already knew, the POS ecosystem and how important it is moving forward to have a POS system. And I was pretty impressed with Charlie's product. And I decided to join Charlie and, go just full-time with Selflane because I believed in his ability because I saw, what the system did at B2B. So I drove to Los Alamos and we left together from his home to go to Chalma. And we got there. It was a restaurant called High Country. And it was at the time one of the busiest restaurants in Chalma. It was a 6-figure per month restaurant. So very demanding. They opened 7 days a week. So we didn't have time to, mess around. We just got right into it after their evening shift. So I think we started installing the system at midnight. Oh no, at like 10 o'clock or something, right? Pretty late. And we didn't finish until 2 in the morning. And I remember I had to crawl through the attic of the restaurant to run the wires. And the ceiling was so fragile. I remember, taking one step and my foot just went through the ceiling. Yeah. So it was a pretty rough one, but we got the job done. Yeah, we got the job done. And, I would honestly say with every restaurant we bring on, we learn something new. And Charlie had to just react quickly to make another update to satisfy the need and, make the system better for that restaurant. Yeah, so that's kind of how we started. I think after 6 months, we were at only 10 restaurants total. So, it was a pretty slow progression as how the company grew the first couple of years, because when you're so young as a company and your product is not proven, these restaurant owners, they're not willing to take a chance on you because it is their restaurant, right? And the point of sale is really the brain of the operation. Everything touches the POS, every sale, every transaction. So it kind of connects everything. Yeah.
And nobody wants to be a guinea pig. Nobody wants to be the first person to try brain surgery and put in a new POS. So I came on a year ago, and seeing where you guys are now, I'm sure, there's a million other stories in between this and then. But we'll get into that more next week on the next
Yes.
podcast.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Charlie. That was great. We got a lot of.
Oh yeah, sure.
That was a incredible, a lot of stuff I didn't know, and really gave me a newfound respect for how this company came to be. So thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome.